Hello and welcome to the Mirrored Muse podcast, a sanctuary for the soul and a spark for the revolutionary spirit, where our truth is always reflected, our radiance remembered, and our spirit set free. I'm your host, Whitney Amber, and together we'll journey into the depths of what it means to awaken, embody, and expand as the muse of our own life. Through soulful storytelling, raw reflections, guided practices, and revolutionary conversations, this podcast is here to truly meet you in your own becoming. So let's take a deep breath, soften our edges. It's time to step into the mirror. This is your invitation to rise. Hey, love, and welcome back to another episode of the Mirrored Muse podcast. Today, I'm inviting you into a story that began long before I even knew I would be returning back to Tennessee. For those of you who may just now be joining the conversation, I'm actually referencing about 2.5 months that I spent in Bali earlier this year, unwinding a whole lifetime. No, really, like a whole family line of patterns. And I didn't fully recognize it then, but now I just can't unsee how I literally worked through each chakra, which is an energy center in our body. Guys, I worked through these like, walking a spiral staircase of just release, healing, and rewriting. So after almost 6 months of traveling, I thought I was just coming home for a little reset before the next adventure, or maybe even a settled move internationally. Turns out I walked straight into a cosmic cleaning initiative. We're talking deep cleaning the house and the lineage. Yes, pledge, vacuum, Windex, and familial healing all in the same sentence. So you're definitely going to want to grab your metaphorical rubber gloves. And let's open the door and find out just what each room of our home can teach us about the stories we inherit from our family and what we have the opportunity to release. And before we get started, I do just want to acknowledge that some of the terms that I may use in this conversation that I've already used, such as ancestral, lineage, chakra, etc., they are most definitely spiritually loaded and charged, like full PSA and like acknowledgement, which I tend to like to avoid usually and go with more of a down to earth, real talk vibe. But to be honest, I just can't find other words similar that just feel right, resonate, and fully embody what I'm trying to articulate here in today's conversation. So just as a reminder, my intention is not to be your guru. I am just a mirror, a muse, a woman giving voice to the beauty and the becoming in us all. Okay, that feels good. Now that that's out of the way. Next, I do want to briefly just kind of walk through the 7 chakras for those of you who may not be as familiar. And as I'm going to speak about these in a way that it pertains specifically to the mother line, the matriarchal lineage, and mother-daughter lens, because these refer to my own personal healing experience while traveling and also set the stage for the continued healing and cleansing taking place being back home. And the reason this matters is it's all tied together for me. So when I was in Bali and I was going through all of this intense amount of healing and releasing, I very quickly realized that a lot of the things that I was carrying, had been carrying throughout my life, the patterns, beliefs, especially limiting beliefs, all of these things were playing out in my life that were very, very similar to either my mom or my mom's mom or my mom's mom's mom. And who knows if it goes beyond my great-grandmother, as she was, the woman farthest back in my matriarchal lineage that I met and spent a lot of time with. And so being in Bali and realizing this also coincided with a healing session that I had with a Balinese healer. And he told me, he said, Whitney, a part of your purpose in this lifetime is to help heal this generational burden and pattern and all of these things. You're here to help rewrite that. And to be honest, at the time when I heard that, because it was very early on into my trip, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. That sounds a little dramatic, sounds a little heavy. But as each day passed and each experience came and gone, or came and went, I couldn't unsee it. And then I would have dreams that were taking me back to very specific moments of either my childhood or teenage years, or experiences with different women and representations of women, whether they be in my family line or just in general. It's just now something I cannot unsee, and it's very clear that what Pak Bagus, the Balinese healer, told me, I quickly realized was very true. So, with that being said, let's walk through just real quick these 7 chakras. And again, as I speak about these, this is going to, I'm going to reference these as I experienced the healing work in Bali and as it pertains to the matriarchal line of my family. Okay, so first we have the root chakra, which think all things safety, survival, and family tree. It sits at the very base of our spine and or around the reproductive organs. So here lives the survival codes passed down from every woman who once had to hustle for her safety. And here's where I got the opportunity to rewrite this, that says, I am safe. And security starts inside me. Next, we have the sacral chakra. Think all things creation, pleasure, mother bonds. This energy center holds womb wisdom and the emotional inheritance of the mother line. Stories about shame, desire, and what pleasure is, quote unquote, allowed. Here, I really got the opportunity. This was a very prominent theme, actually, during my travel. And it granted me the opportunity to rewrite this, the experiences, whether they be personal to me or to the women in my family. But this gave me the chance to really reclaim my power that surrounds creativity and pleasure. So now this looks more like the belief of my joy is my birthright and my sensuality is sacred. Next, we have the solar plexus. Think all things power, autonomy, boundaries. Here it asks questions like, where had I shrunk to keep the peace? And where had guilt become a family heirloom? And I really got the opportunity to release the need to people please and to stand tall in my own will. So now that rewrite looks like I shine without apology. I own my shine. My shine is actually my superpower. Next, we have the heart chakra. This is all things exactly that you think it is, and maybe a little more. Think love, forgiveness, and ancestral compassion. So here is where old grief resides, where I got to forgive silently held hurts between mothers and daughters, and release all unspoken love held between lovers and friends. The rewrite here for me, now this sounds like love now flows freely through us all. And it is safe to give and receive love in a relationship. Next, we have the throat chakra. Think all things truth and family voice. This is a big one because for generations, for the ladies listening, our voices have been very suppressed. And so, yeah, this is the place of voice and story. So this is where I spoke truths the women before me were told to hide. Podcasting and journaling as acts of liberation. Here, the rewrite for me says, I tell our story in a voice that frees. And I want to say that again because I know I talk a lot about my own personal story, but the truth and the essence of this podcast is I tell our story in a voice that frees, fully recognizing the women who came before and the women who will come after. Next, we have the third eye chakra. This is everything intuition and ancestral vision. So yes, we're talking dreams, and of course, sudden clarity began to reveal for me the map of my next season and the soul contract threads in my matriarch line. Ooh, this was a powerful one. So now the rewrite for me says, I trust the insight within and the guidance of my intuition. My intuition has never been stronger. And last but certainly not least, we have the crown chakra. This is, there's a million different names for it. Call it divine mother connection in our context of the conversation today. Also think that source energy connection, that God source connection. So here I really felt the embrace of something larger than bloodlines. It was that divine mother love and source that never runs out. Here the rewrite for me says I belong to a cosmic source and lineage of light. Oof. These were so powerful. These were so powerful, friends, and very much set the stage of what we're about to go into. So now that we kind of have the energetic blueprint of my healing experience in Bali, and this is not just, I really believe this, that this is not just my personal experience. I think there are a lot of humans, male and female, all across the world, walking through different types and stages of this healing of our lineage, especially healing with our mothers. So, by the time I boarded that plane home, I wasn't just returning to Tennessee. I was literally carrying what felt like a rewired lineage inside of me. So that is the heart of today's episode. How the physical home I came back to became a living metaphor and final exam for everything my team of light and I had just healed in Bali. So Bali was my initiation, room by room in the body, chakra by chakra in the soul. And when I finally turned the key in my mom's front door, that's when the real mirror was gifted, because it felt just like the universe had built me a matching set. The outer house waiting to be cleansed, one drawer and dusty corner at a time to match the inner remodel I had just lived. And with that being said, I think it's so powerful now as I've been doing these different stages and phases of cleaning throughout my mother's home, is seeing the house, really the home, as a living symbol. Like, I think of it now as room by room alchemy. Each corner is a diary page, kitchen cabinets holding inherited scarcity stories, garage or storage boxes storing unspoken grief. It's absolutely wild how the smallest corner can be the loudest mirror. So, matter mirrors spirit. Dust equals unprocessed memories. Broken things are the same as broken patterns. So, and I just want to pause here for a second, because as we're talking about this and as we step into now this visualization and process of cleansing, in my experience, my mother's home and her mother's home, actually, where is that place that's coming to mind? What is that place that is coming to mind for you? Because now we're literally going to be talking about each aspect of the home as it relates to the body and the energetic body, right? And those energy centers we call chakras. There's a direct correlation to everything I experienced in Bali and me returning home in my hometown to now face and free, honestly. Okay, let's do it. So first up, we got the front porch, the entryway into the home. Of course, this is correlated to the crown chakra. It's the luminous halo of the house. This is where the outside world meets our family energy, where divine guidance first knocks. So does your own threshold say welcome in or please keep out? A swept porch or a single thriving plant can shift the frequency of everything that enters. Next, we have the living room. Of course, this is correlated to the throat chakra. So when we open the door and walk into the house, this is the voice box. Here, stories are told, truths exchanged, laughter carries medicine through the walls. So is your living room alive with honest conversation, or is silence settling like dust? Are secrets being swept under the rug because it's unsafe to speak the truth? I invite you to rearrange a chair or just invite a long overdue talk. Let the room speak, because every healed conversation is an heirloom of peace. And then we move naturally into the kitchen, which reflects the solar plexus and sacral energies. The kitchen is both the house's stomach and creative womb. It feeds not only our bodies, but our money flow, abundance, pleasure, and everyday alchemy. So check that fridge and the pantry. Are they nourishing you? Or are they keeping expired scarcity scripts on the shelf? Every simmering pot can literally rewrite a family story. And I won't get into this in this conversation, but cooking with intention, oh my God, is a complete game changer. And when you throw out what's expired in that pantry, that's when life rushes in fresh. That's when the flow becomes clear and abundant. That flow becomes overflow a lot of times, actually. And then, okay, of course, next we have the one that none of us like to talk about. Or, well, I feel like this is a love or a hate, which is the closet. I feel like there's no middle ground with the closet. Either it's super organized or it's just not. And closets resemble the third eye. So open a door that's usually shut. Closets are the hidden psyche of a home, holding dreams, secrets, identities that once fit but no longer do. Clearing even one hanger is like clearing a decade of unspoken truths. Throwing out what no longer fits is how we tell the universe we're ready for more. So what wants to step out of hiding in your life? Here I've got to tell a quick story. So since I've been home, the minute I came back to my mother's house, I knew that I would be cleaning. A, it's just like a love language of mine, and B, like I knew it. I anticipated it. I haven't lived here since 2009. And even whenever I lived here, it was very, very brief. And this isn't our childhood home. So anyways, I'm looking forward to it. I know it's coming, but then I come home and I was cleaning. I started in my own bedroom. Then I moved to my mom's room and her closet. So whenever I got to my mother's closet, I was going through cleaning naturally. I'm pulling stuff off the shelves. I see this bin that looked familiar, and I was like, I think that's mine. It seems like I had packed this up at one point in time. So I go over to it, I'm pulling things out, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely mine. And as I'm flipping through, it's mostly photos, which I love to find, these are photos that I've seen, but it's been years, right, since I've gone through them all. So I love the moment when I stumble upon them and I'm going through them. So here we are, going through all these photos. I actually made a post about this on our Instagram page because I was like, how fitting is this that all of a sudden, after being gone for 6 months, traveling, doing so much healing work and just reflections and all the things, I come back home and now I'm met with every version of myself that has existed up until this point. So I've never returned home this whole and this full of myself, full of who I am. And so it was kind of like for the first time, I was holding all of the versions of me at once. And for the first time, I had the capacity to do that and hold them and not get overwhelmed and not hold shame or judgment or embarrassment. A million different things we could say here. But I really could appreciate and respect and honor her at every stage. And to be able to hold all of me like that with a tangible object and reflection, mirror, truly in the most, in the truest essence, right? I'm looking at her and it's so crazy the number of identities that we can carry with us. So anyway, the closet was a key component. It felt very full circle. It also felt transformative. It just felt really beautiful to think about Whitney in each of her stages and to remember the dreams she had and to remember the things she cared the most about. And, what's really interesting is to think about what was the most consistent through each of those stages. So the closet, the third eye. So the third eye and the heart chakra for sure, and the throat. Those have been really, really key during my travel, for sure. Heart, throat, third eye. So with that being said, after moving through the closets, now we come to the bathrooms. So bathrooms reflect all things sacral and root release, which makes sense, right? So maybe listen to that quiet rush of water, because bathrooms are the cleansing organs of the house where emotions and memories rinse away. So a slow drain or leaky faucet, that often mirrors feelings that keep circling back, or old patterns or narratives, stories we tell ourselves circling back, stuck on loop. So just imagine every shower carrying away what no longer belongs. And now we move to, in my experience, mom's bedroom, but this stands true for the master bedroom or primary suite of the home. This reflects the heart chakra. Oh, So this is the heart of intimacy and the heart of the mother line, the lineage. Here, forgiveness and generational compassion can finally exhale. Fresh sheets, a single candle, small gestures that invite love to soften old walls. Which relationships in your own life are ready for that softness? Okay, so we got to pause with this one because this was the moment that this whole conversation that we're having today really just set in and hit home. Like I got emotional, had a whole moment. It was so powerful. Because it hit me as I was vacuuming all the dust from the walls and behind and underneath the bed. Because my mother actually was sleeping in the other spare bedroom and not in her bed whenever I got here, which I found interesting. Well, then as I was cleaning, it dawned on me. No wonder she felt so overwhelmed by all of this and didn't know where to start because it wasn't all hers. And when I say it, I'm referring to both and, not just the dust and accumulation of things, of clutter, but also all of this generational accumulation, dust and clutter, right? So all of these things that were never used and just piling up represents not just maybe hers, but her mom's and who we call Nanny and her mom's mom, which is our great grandmother. It represents their suppressed intimacy. And their suppressed intimacy. It was the very moment it dawned on me that all of this cleaning was so much more than just a deep cleaning of the house. It was a continuation of the work and journey I had just been on for the last 6 months. So I began to see the room, the home, completely different. Because to be honest, cleaning is something that comes very natural to me. Like it is for sure a love language of mine that I like to gift my family. So I've done this before in many different ways and places and whatever, but this just hit so differently. And as I began to see her bedroom in this new light, I was like, oh, I wasn't seeing how it affected her. I was seeing my own patterns reflected in this bedroom. The dust under the bed, the lack of intimacy, the walls, the armor, the defensiveness that just walled around my heart. And I'm sure this would reflect the same or similarly for the women in my family. And while those stories aren't mine to tell, I do know them and I do see and I felt them for sure in Bali. The weightedness of it. And so when we think about the heart chakra and forgiveness and generational compassion, let's just break that down for a moment. When thinking about our mothers, compassion, I don't know about you, but for me, for the longest time, I always saw compassion as being given from the mother, not to the mother. That's what I grew up seeing. And so as I began to not just see the bed, but the mirror, like no physical mirror sitting. So she has like this beautiful tall chest of drawers, and a mirror sets all the way across the length of it. And I began to see not just the dust, but different smudges and places on this mirror. And what I couldn't unsee is how the image of our mothers from the outside looking in at them has been distorted. So for sure, them being able to clearly see and know themselves in an intimate way. And when I started to think about that and how much time, what tools were they given and not given to be able to do that, right? That's when I was like, oh man, there's a lot of work to do around this, And then to think about the relationship with my mother, my personal relationship with her, which we'll get into in a bit. But oh, guys, it was a whole spiritual awakening in itself. And I'm not being dramatic. And it was the most beautiful thing I think that could have happened in this process. So then I felt honored to be able to clean her home and for her to trust me to clean her home and not just throw things away without asking and not rearrange things disrespectfully because that's where I thought it looked best, right? Like, but to open this dialogue and conversation with her and be like, Mom, which I've always been close to my mother, but it opened a new layer of dialogue and conversation. And I really felt in that a new level and layer of trust and intimacy that is so beautiful just began to bloom. And seeds for new conversations to come were most definitely planted. So when we think about the primary suite, that is our heart chakra. It is the heart. It is the intimacy. So again, I'm going to ask, which relationships in our own life are ready for that softness? Ladies, where can we better balance our feminine energy so that we can step into that softness? Okay, next we have the kids so it can be a kid's bedroom, it could be your old bedroom or just the spare bedroom. This is where we get into the inner child and the sacral chakra. So this is the room of remembered dreams, boxes of trophies, faded posters, bedtime echoes, all the past selves who still want a seat at the table. So I encourage you to keep one sacred keepsake and release the rest with love and gratitude. Whose voice from childhood still longs to be heard? What version of you needs their voice to be heard? And how interesting that the photos of me that I found were not in what would have been my old bedroom. They were found in my mother's. To me, that was a whole other download moment of, oh my God, I think Pak Bagus was more than right now. Like, this is also an illustration that supports what he told me about me being here and my purpose with the mother line in my family. So next we have the garage and or storage. This represents the root chakra. So now we're basically down to the home's deep cellar of memory, because the garage is a museum of forgotten selves and survival instincts. So each unopened box could be an ancestral contract waiting to be recycled. Which one calls your name first? Now this one, I will say, this is one that we have not tackled yet in my mother's home because how beautiful is this? It's going to require me, my mom, and my sister to all be present to work through and go through everything that is in the garage. Talk about truly the deep cellar of memory. And for the longest time of my life, our core family represented, for the most part, me and my sister and my mom. So that's so powerful. I've honestly been looking forward to that day since I got home. So TBD for when that moment occurs. Okay. Now that we've walked through the healing process in Bali, for me, my personal story, which then tied into learning about the different homes or different rooms in the home and how those directly correlated to each of the chakras, and now my healing process with the mother line went from the energetic body into this physical outer representation into my mother's home. Now, I really wanted to talk about this mother-daughter alchemy, because this has been in my personal experience, and I really believe that there is a deep alchemy that this whole process creates within ourselves individually and within that relationship with our mom. Because cleaning isn't just a chore, it's a co-creation of new energy. It's an act of love, care, and support to my mother, who has for too long carried burdens all on her own, most that weren't even hers to begin with. She also is a mother who cared for two little wild blondies simultaneously. Yes, for those of you who didn't know, I am a twin. And this role of mother for her heavily relied on her mother, who we call our nanny. Do you see the generational ripple and lean here? This is just what we got to witness. We also spent a lot of time with our great-grandmother once again, and this is an added layer. I mention this because there are layers I never witnessed and don't even know about, but felt in Bali. And I saw with my own eyes the residue in my mother's home. So the dust became more than just dust. The things became way more than just things. It represented something much deeper. And I believe that we are the hinge generation, closing old doors so our children can walk through new ones. So yes, I now see things like folding laundry, painting walls, dusting, these ordinary acts that rewrite generations of survival coding. And ways for our mothers to begin to receive support in these areas they have always been told were theirs to take care of or demanded to be taken care of. I'm telling you, doing these things with a loving intention is a game changer for our mothers. What we mend between mother and daughter, and even son, rewrites what love feels like in the whole family line. And just a quick little ad here. This is how beautiful the universe works. So whenever I came home, something that's very important to me and that I really enjoy is creating beautiful spaces and decorating them and, just whatever intuitively I feel like the space, I'm very visual. And so I can naturally kind of see and suss out the vibe that I want to do. And so whenever I came home, I told my mom, I was like, and my mom has always said, I can never grow anything. She's really admired people who have a green thumb. But she's like, I don't want plants. They always die. Don't buy me flowers because they just die, like blah, blah, blah. And this is important, a very important reminder of what we tell ourselves. Because I tell her, Mom, first things first, we got to get some plants up in here. Like, I can't deal without plants. If they need to just stay in my room, that's fine. But I'd really like to put some in the living room. And guys, okay, miracle number 1, she didn't shut me down and was open to it. Miracle number 2, she was not only open to it, she went with me to Walmart, which is another long story, but I'm in a very small town, okay, so bear with me. Walmart was basically our only option. So we go into Walmart and yeah, she comes with me. The third miracle is she starts looking around and being curious about the plants and maybe even picks out one. Yeah, I was like, what is happening? So I feel this grin come across my face as I'm pushing the buggy of our plants in Walmart. And then she's literally carrying them out and goes to put them in the car. And she looks so happy and excited about it. She was a little stubborn to admit it, but like you could just tell, you could see it all over her. So for those of you curious, the plants in the home are thriving. They are not dead. So I'm determined to rewrite that little, we're going to call it a limiting belief of my mother about the plants. So there's also a significance to the literal greenery that was added to the home. These are basically like tiny altars of life signaling growth in our relationship. And not just like her relationship with me, but I think also her relationship with my sister and her husband, so my mom's son-in-law, and even my nieces. Like, how beautiful is this? Oh, it has been so special. And so there is this matriarchal line rewrite that's happened. There has been this rewrite process because every scrubbed floorboard and cleared closet feels so much bigger than my own life. This isn't just about me and my mom having a cleaner house. It's about rewriting the DNA of what gets passed down in our families to our daughters and our sons. We are living inside our foremothers' prayers. The women who came before us dreamed of rooms where love would replace fear, where choice would replace survival, and where daughters could create without permission slips. Some of them never saw it with their own eyes. But every time we set a new standard of peace or choose rest over burnout and force, we are making their dreams visible. How powerful is that? I like to picture it something similar to planting. So seeds for our kids, right? The habits we nurture, honest conversation, healthy money flow, simple joy, they become their starting soil. The roots for their kids' kids. So every boundary we hold, every story we rewrite, deepens the ground they'll one day build on. And shade for strangers we'll never meet. Even people far outside our family tree will feel the oxygen of these choices. This is the quiet revolution of everyday life. And no, you don't have to give a TED talk or write a manifesto. Clearing a single shelf, changing the way a dinner table conversation goes, saying this pattern stops with me, all of this, it is legacy work. We are not only keeping house, we are keeping a future, and the generations ahead will sit in the shade of the trees we plant today. So as we come to a close in today's conversation, I do want to leave this powerful affirmation that has rang so true for me going through this process, and I hope that maybe it resonates with you. And it is, the choices I make today become fertile ground for generations of love after me. So now I ask you, what everyday spaces in your life are asking you to cleanse so that your lineage can breathe again? Choose one drawer or corner. Play a favorite song while cleaning. Say aloud, I release what's not mine. I keep what carries love. Because, just a reminder, a house is never just a house. It's literally the autobiography of a family's soul. Have a great week, you guys.
Well, that was fun.
I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, for trusting me with your time, and for joining this moment, this mirror, this movement of remembering. If something in today's conversation lit a spark, I'd be so jazzed and honored if you'd pass it on by leaving a review, sending it to a friend, or bringing it into your own conversations. For now, you can connect with more inspo, reflections, resources, and our beautiful community on Instagram at The Mirrored Muse. Until next time, stay wild, stay soft, and remember, you are the muse.